How's it going, everybody? Today I'd like to review another controller for you guys. I have been running the Razer Wolverine V2 Pro for PlayStation 5. I got this controller because I had to send my brand new SCUF in for warranty already. You might have seen my other video reviewing the SCUF Reflex FPS. It's a great controller. I am going back to that, but we'll get into that in a minute. So I picked this one up because it was local. It's got the back paddles on it. It's got 4 paddles on the back. It actually has 2 extra bumpers on top, so 6 remappable buttons. Now, this controller feels really good, really solid in your hands if you are not using the back paddles. The back paddles are a little out of reach in my opinion, and I feel like I have a normal sized finger, maybe even a little bit longer, but if you had shorter fingers, these would be a lot harder to push, to reach for. When I was playing with this, it was actually quite uncomfortable to keep my fingers down on these lower paddles like I normally would on my SCUF. I suppose you could remap the top buttons to be the ones that you would normally be on. On my SCUF, I would keep these as jump and crouch so that I'd constantly have my fingers on those ready to make a play. But it's just not comfortable on this one. So I tried remapping it to the top ones, but that just caused a lot of confusion for me because I'm running around, then I needed to pick something up or reload or swap weapons, and I tried to go up here like I normally would reach for the other buttons on the SCUF. But I suppose you could get used to that. I just don't like how far out of reach they are. It was actually kind of uncomfortable to play with. Like I said, the controller is solid. It has a solid feel to it. It's for the PS5, which is what I play on. But it looks like an Xbox controller, which I'm not opposed to, because I played a lot of Xbox before last year. I was on Xbox. So switching to this controller wasn't a huge stretch for me, but that might be a turnoff for a lot of people, especially diehard PlayStation fans. A couple other features this has on the edges here. You have RGB that you can control via an app on your phone, which is pretty cool, but unfortunately not cool enough to make this controller something I'm going to keep. I'm actually going to go ahead and return this controller, and I'll tell you why. Now, this controller connects via USB dongle or a wired connection. I tried the wireless version first because I didn't want to be connected to a bunch of cords, because I have my headset plugged into my controller, which is plugged into my PC for streaming purposes. So I tried the USB dongle, and I found that this controller has a ton of input lag on the sticks. So when you're trying to aim, if you are looking at somebody and you're actively trying to move to the left and then you're trying to swing over to the right, the input lag was so bad that it was unplayable. I mean, in any sort of competitive application, you'd hate this controller. The casual player might like it for, a slower single player game, but I don't feel like that's what this controller is designed for. It's designed to compete with the SCUFs and the people that are trying to sweat it out pretty hard. I got a hold of support, and they suggested that I try to run it in a wired configuration, and that did help a lot. It's just not smooth, though. You still have a ton of input lag, in my opinion, and while it is more usable that way, it's just not acceptable in comparison to a PlayStation 5 controller or a SCUF that uses the same Bluetooth technology that only PlayStation will let you use their stuff on, which somehow SCUF is able to do that, obviously with some type of a partnership. But this controller just doesn't do that. Now, whether it runs better on a PC, I don't know. I didn't try that. I don't have any games downloaded on my PC. It's specifically for streaming and video editing, so I wasn't really going to get into that. The support wanted me to try that, but at this point, I'm just not interested in trying it any further. And the reason is because a few days into going back and forth via email with their Tier 2 technical support, and I'm doing things like making sure the firmware is up to date. And that was one of the first steps I did. They come back and suggest that I update the firmware. Are you not even paying attention? You already tried to get me to do that. Now, I don't know what kind of circles they're going to have me go in to try to figure this out, but it's just not worth my time when I know I've got other controllers that are going to do the job for me. Luckily, I was able to get a hold of Scuff and let them know, hey, I'm sending you this other controller back. What's the status of the one I just sent you? And they were able to rush the other one back to me 2-day air, which was really nice. So I got that back yesterday, set that back up and played with it last night and this morning. And the difference is just undeniable. Super smooth, super responsive. I play on a 2020 sensitivity on Call of Duty, and that is definitely not a possibility with the Wolverine. Just the input lag makes that impossible. And that might have been a lot of my problem. Maybe if I had jacked the sensitivity all the way back down, into the single digits, it would have been usable. I tried to go down to like a 15, and it was, like I said, a little more usable at that point. Or I did find a way to make this controller usable for a few days, but I was at a disadvantage to what I'm used to. I really wish this had worked out better on this controller because, like I said, it feels good, it looks good. I love the RGB in it. That's pretty cool. But all the flashy stuff just doesn't matter at the end of the day if it's not going to perform. It does come with a couple other thumbsticks that you can pop off magnetically and then add a taller one, which would be nice if you had any sort of responsiveness to this controller, but you don't. And then it comes with a round domed thumbstick, but they give you it in the shortest configuration, so I'm a little confused as to why they wouldn't give you a couple of options here, because you have a couple of options with the dished version, if you will, but you only get one with the domed version. So maybe they thought that was good enough. I would like to see more options with that. I think that if they were able to get a hold of the issue with this controller and get it fixed, it would be pretty decent. That, and then maybe I'd like to see the back buttons spaced out a little more, or maybe even angled. If these bottom ones that protrude a little bit were angled out a little bit, so you could just more naturally hit them when you're playing, you might be able to deal with that. But all in all, unfortunately, this one's going back today. I did buy it at Best Buy, and they have a really great return policy. No questions asked. I'm going to get my full refund on it. It's not like I'm scamming them out of anything, because this controller just isn't what it's supposed to be. They claim it's lightning speed, I think. Let's read the box here. Razer Hyperspeed Wireless. I don't know. That's a complete farce in my opinion. It just doesn't live up to that at all. Another feature this does have is the locking triggers. So you can use this for both, racing games and shooters. They're not the mouse click triggers, but they're pretty close. If you inverted your controls, you'd probably have a better time using the R1 and R2 buttons for shooting and aiming if you really wanted to simulate the mouse click triggers like from the Scuff. So anyways, that's my review of this controller. I wouldn't recommend it if they fixed a couple of the issues, in another version. I'd love to give it another try, but I don't think that this is a competitive controller. Thanks for watching, everybody. I do have another review of a Scuff controller. Go ahead and check that out. Appreciate everybody stopping by, and hope you have a great day.